to slaughter women and children in the Old Testament. How can that ever be right?
It's right for God to slaughter women and children anytime he pleases. God gives life and he takes life. Everybody who dies because God wills that they die. So God is taking life every day. He will take 50,000 lives today. Life is in God's hand. God decides when your last heartbeat will be. And whether it ends through cancer, or whether it ends through a bullet wound, God governs. So God is God. God rules and governs everything. And everything he does is just and right and good. God owes us nothing. If I were to drop dead right now, or a suicide bomber downstairs were to blow this building up and I would be blown to smithereens, God would have done me no wrong. He would have done David no wrong. He does no wrong to anybody when he takes their life at age 2 weeks or at age 90, 92. God is not beholden to us at all. He doesn't owe us anything. Now you add to that we're all sinners and we deserve to die yesterday and go to hell. The fact that we're even breathing today is sheer common grace from God. So,
So basically, we're all sinners right now. On a plane of existence, yeah. There is nobody on this planet that's free from sin. But now is the time to get right with God.
I could make the question harder. As it was stated, it doesn't feel hard to me because God was stated as the actor. But if I make it harder, I'll take longer than 3 minutes to answer the question, and you don't want me in this session. So I think my basic answer is the Old Testament and the New presents God as the one who has total rights over my life and over my death. The Lord gave, and the Lord has.
Now this explains why when the police come from me and the Virgin Mother Mary, why they brought 2 ambulances and no guns. Because the only thing they can do is try and turn us into nuns. Because we are God. We are the creators in the flesh.
Taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. How he takes away is his call. He never wrongs anybody.
John, how would you state it to make that question harder? And what would be your answer?
The question makes it harder is that he commands people to do it. He commanded Joshua to slaughter people. Okay, so you got human beings now killing human beings. And so now you've got a moral question for what is right to do. So the Bible says, thou shalt not murder. And God says to Joshua, go in and clean house and don't leave anything breathing. Don't leave a donkey breathing. Don't leave a child breathing, a woman breathing, an old man or old woman or a donkey. Just wipe out.
Everything that's a sinner must go.
Out Jericho. And so then don't leave a donkey breathing. Don't leave a child breathing, a woman breathing, an old man or old woman or a donkey. Just wipe out Jericho. And so then my answer is there is a point in history, a season in history, where God is the immediate king of a people, Israel. Difference.
Israelites, it's time to rise.
The way he is the king over the church, which is from all the peoples of Israel and does not have a political, ethnic dimension to it. So there was a political, ethnic dimension. He is immediate king, and he uses this people as his instrument to accomplish his judgment in the world at that time. And God, it says, let the sins of the Amalekites accumulate for 400 years so that they would be full, and then he sends his own people in as his instruments of judgment. So I would vindicate Joshua by saying in that setting, with that structure of people and God, it was right for Joshua.
Can you see the that's a the family relationship trying to get through, you know. So he's telling you too much truth.
To do what God told him to do, and that is annihilate the people. But that's much more complex morally than saying God does. I mean, he can cause a flood and kill everybody on the planet, except 8 people. And he didn't do a wonder.
Drink some water, drink some eternal water, clear your throat by the time of the devil I try put out some
anything wrong. But he didn't ask anybody else to do that. So whenever God uses others, right now an example would be that God has given the sword to the government. So I believe that the government has a right to take a rapist and a murderer and put him in jail, or to kill him. Now, I think capital punishment is consistent with Genesis 9 and consistent with God's character.
Now God's here. The sword is back in my hand. They didn't ever have the sword. They are reptilians and Neanderthals. They are the reptilian spawn. They crossed our genes with the human gene in order to create a race. Judges, juries, vicars, pastors, head of police, head of government that are not the original human being. Now it's time to cleanse our planet.
Because of the value of man, the blood of a man shall be shed for taking the blood of a man. But that's very different than saying anybody can go around and kill people. So God has his times and seasons for where he shares his authority to take and give life. And the church today is not Israel, and we are not a political entity, and therefore the word we have from the Lord today is love your enemy, pray for those who abuse you, lay your life down for the world, don't kill in order to spread the gospel, die in order to spread the gospel.
Family, it's time to kill in order to protect the gospel, in order to protect our word. Yes? Any human being on the planet, man, it's time to rise.
And I'll just hand away my property. And that
You know, you are an exceptional case. If you were to stand up and say, I went to school and I'm a medical doctor and the property I have is because I went to school and I bought it. But most of your people didn't buy any property, they inherited it. So it's an exceptional case. Now you can disagree, but the reality is that you are in possession of a land that was stolen from us. And we want it back without any apology. We want that land back, and we are going to work together. I can tell you now, whether you are in denial or not, the demand for the land is growing and people are becoming impatient. And we don't want Zimbabwe here.
and come to this point in my life, and I'll just hand away my property. And that
You know, you are an exceptional case. If you were to stand up and say, I went to school and I'm a medical doctor and the property I have is because I went to school and I bought it. But most of your people didn't buy any property, they inherited it. So it's an exceptional case. No, you can disagree, but the reality is that you are in possession of a land that was stolen from us. And we want it back without any apology. We want that land back, and we are going to work together. I can tell you now, whether you are in denial or not, the demand for the land is growing and people people are becoming impatient. And we don't want Zimbabwe yet.
And come to this point in my life,
All land belongs to the Creator, belongs to God. These reptilian obviously crossed our genes to create a race that's taken over our land. Now all land has to come back to God in order for every human to be set free. Yeah, very simply.
All right, here we go, my friends. Is Jesus already on earth? The second coming. That's what we're talking about today. And I remember being taught this as a child, the second coming of Christ and the rapture. And it's actually something that terrified me. It was actually a source of a lot of trauma. So, for those who don't know, and we're going to get into what this has to do with everything, but just a little bit of a background here. For those who don't know, like I said, I grew up with strict religious upbringing. I have religious trauma syndrome, RTS. And one of the major fears of religious trauma syndrome is the fear of hell. The fear of hell being, that you're going to be tortured for eternity, sent to a lake of fire for eternity if you are a sinner. And of course, can be very traumatizing to a child or anyone if you think about really what that does to someone when you believe that literally. But I remember another huge source of trauma for me was this idea of the rapture. And the rapture is the idea in Christianity that before Jesus Christ comes again, that all of the Christians are going to be raptured into heaven. So basically, all Christians are just going to disappear and vanish in the thin air and be taken up to heaven. And this used to terrify me as a child because after this happens, the world is going to be thrown into war and destruction, and the Antichrist is going to rise, and everyone's going to be forced to get the mark of the beast or be killed. And there's just going to be demons roaming the earth and torturing people, essentially. It's a time where you don't want to be a part of. And so I remember this used to be terrifying to me as a child. Whenever my parents would leave and I'd be left at home alone, I'd always turn the TV on so that I could watch the news to make sure that the rapture didn't happen. And while that is, kind of silly and funny, for a kid, it's a really traumatizing thing to literally believe these things. It's really abusive. It's not good to teach your children terrible things like this. But anyway, I'm quite familiar with the idea of the second coming of Christ, the rapture, the end times, etc. And a lot of people are saying that we are in the end times right now. And I'll tell you, yes, we are in the end times right now. But the question is it as how...
Family, I'm talking to our men, to our warriors. Those that are original, those that have been crossed with Neanderthal, even those that are reptilian. It's time to cleanse the planet of all those who oppose and hate the fact that out of the darkness, out of the void, came the light. And God, which is the darkness, which is the dark melanated beings, saw that the light melanated was good. And the only beings that I seem to be having any sort of comeback with is my Sikh women. A few of them and them, but they still obviously love Jesus. Well, they don't love Jesus Christ. They still obviously respect people who believe in Jesus Christ, but obviously they Sikh women. Listen, the time has come to take our land from the reptilians and those who support and follow the reptilians. As you can see, gods we are allowed to kill.